we will be focusing, or today's class will be focused on verse number 8. Got that right?
Yeah. So, Prabhu, what we can do is we can do from 2 to 8
Uh-huh.
because last week we were giving class on sex work.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
We start.
Yeah, go ahead.
We rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. This bhag. What is the need for any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the supreme law is established within his heart. O expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, to ensure through the desire tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of the Swami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its experience is already knowledgeable for all. So, Ishan.
Once in a holy place in the forest of Naimisharanya, great sages headed by the sage Shaunaka assembled to perform a great 1,000-year sacrifice for the satisfaction of the Lord and his devotees.
One day, after finishing their morning duties by burning a sacrificial fire and offering a seat of esteem to Srila Shuddha Goswami, the great sages made inquiries with great respect about the following matters.
It's sages said, respected Sutta Goswami, you are completely free from all vice. You are well versed in all the scriptures, very famous for religious life, and in the Puranas and the histories as well. For you have gone through them under proper guidance and have also explained them.
Being the eldest learned Vedantist, O Sutta Goswami, you are acquainted with the knowledge of Vyasadeva, who is an incarnation of Godhead, and you also know other sages who are fully versed in all kinds of physical and metaphysical knowledge.
That's it. And because you are submissive, your spiritual master has endowed you with all the favors bestowed upon the gentle disciples. Therefore, you can tell us all that you have scientifically learned from them.
Jai. Okay, so we'll recite the Sanskrit word for word translation, and then there's a small purport for text number 8. Okay, so I'll just recite it once, and then we can go around. Veta tvam somya tat sarvam tatvatastad anugrahat Bhuyu snigdhasya shishyasya Gurovo bhuyamapi yuta
Veta tvam somya tat sarvam.
Veta tvam somya tat sarvam
First time. Tatvatastad
Tatvatastad anugrahat
Bhuyuhu snigdhasya shishyasya
Bhruyuh snigdhasya shishyasya Guravo bhuyamapi yuta
Vetatvam Savitat Sarvam
Veta tvam somya tat sarvam
Tatvatastad anugrahat.
Tatvatastad anugrahat
Bhuyustu Sindasya Sishyas
Bhruyuh snigdhasya shishyasya
Guruvo Bhugimapi Yuta.
Guravo bhuyamapi yuta
Veta tvam somya tat sarvam.
Veta tvam somya tat sarvam Tatvatastad anugrahat
Bhuyu snigdhasya sishyasya.
Bhruyuh snigdhasya shishyasya
Guravo Bhuyamapi Yuta
Guravo bhuyamapi yuta Veta tvam somya tat sarvam Tasatananugrahat Bhruyuh snigdhasya shishyasya Guravo bhuyamapi yuta. Word for word. Veta, you are well conversant. Tvam, your honor. Samya, one who is pure and simple. Tat, those. Sarvam, all. Tatvataha, in fact. Tat, there. Anugrahat, by the favor of Through you who will tell Snigdasya of the one who is submissive, Shishyasya of the disciple, Guruvaha or Guravaha, the spiritual masters, Huyam, secret, Apiyuta, endowed with, translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. And because you are submissive, your spiritual masters have endowed you with all the favors bestowed upon a gentle disciple. Therefore, you can tell us all that you have scientifically learned from them. Purport: the secret of success in spiritual life is in satisfying the spiritual master and thereby getting his sincere blessings. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has sung in his famous 8 stanzas on the spiritual master as follows: I offer my respectful obeisances onto the lotus feet of my spiritual master. Only by his satisfaction can one please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and when he is dissatisfied, there is only havoc on the path of spiritual realization. It is essential, therefore, that a disciple be very much obedient and submissive to the bona fide spiritual master. Srila Sutta Goswami fulfilled all these qualifications as a disciple, and therefore he was endowed with all favors by his learned and self-realized spiritual masters, such as Srila Vyasadeva and others. The sages of Naimisharanya were confident that Srila Sutta Goswami was bona fide. Therefore, they were anxious to hear from him. Jai. Okay. Is there any way I could share my slide on here?
Yes.
Screen share.
Yeah. It says MacBook. It says MacBook Air. It doesn't give me Street TV. For some reason. Oh, it's because I'm not in the Wi-Fi.
Yeah. You have to be able to see.
Sorry, Prabhu.
Is it connected to the latest Ashton Wi-Fi? I just connected it.
If anyone has the Jeopardy music, we can play that now. Do 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 do. Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna. It's not connected. Hare Krishna. Connecting, guys. Sure, that's probably. That's okay.
I'll try just one thing. If it doesn't.
Okay. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. Does it work? Okay, that's fine. Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Rama Rama Hare Hare. Okay, apologies, Prabhus. I I'm laughing because this morning I woke up at like 5 and I designed the deck because I wanted to show the deck. Oh, you can show the deck? Okay. Um, but then, of course, it didn't happen. Anyways, we'll get started. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So when each line of the Bhagavatam, if we think about it, actually, there's a pastime in planting the seed, or Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, where Srila Prabhupada is, there's a devotee that comes to Srila Prabhupada, and he says that, oh, Prabhupada, I don't mind typing your transcripts for you. And sorry, before I even forget, I just wanted to seek the blessings of all the Vaishnavas, especially Govinda Priya Prabhu. Please bless me so that I can say something of for my own edification as well. So, anyways, so before we get he came to Prabhupada's room and he said, "Yeah, I can help you with transcripts." And then Prabhupada, oh, wonderful, Jai, woohoo! Okay, my early morning panic didn't go to waste.
Blessing that word.
It was a blessing that worked. Okay. So yeah, and so when he saw all the transcripts and all the manuscripts, Prabhupada showed him there was like a full like cupboard of this. And he says, that's a lifetime of work. And Prabhupada said, many lifetimes. So each line of the Bhagavatam is actually a composite of the realizations of multiple acharyas in our movement. And so each line actually of Prabhupada's purport, that's why like I wasn't surprised when you said like you can spend like pretty much an entire life just covering each verse of the Bhagavatam. And so for each line, we can spend like of the purport, we can spend, hours just discussing it and really diving into it. And so we'll try to do that today. We'll take the first line of today's verse, which was something along the effects of that. It's only by what was it? The secret of success in spiritual life is in satisfying the spiritual master and thereby getting his sincere blessings. So we're going to try and unpack that one line. When Srila Prabhupada established ISKCON, specifically instituted the morning program. And interestingly, the details of these programs, the prayers that we sing and, the timings even, they differ a little bit from Gaudiya Math, which was the organization that Prabhupada's spiritual master had established, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. For instance, during Mangalarti in Gaudiya Math, a different prayer is sang. In ISKCON, we sing a prayer known as the Guru Vastakam by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, which explicitly glorifies the spiritual master. And not only that, but if we actually see the entire morning program, right, we have Mangalarti, Shingadev prayers, Tulsi prayers, Japa and the Darshanarti, and then Guru Puja. Prabhupada also established Guru Puja as a standard ISKCON practice in Mumbai in 1974. And so this, if you look at the standard ISKCON morning program, out of the 5 prayers that we sing, 2 of them are focused on the guru, on the spiritual master. In fact, think about it. When we wake up in the morning, we greet the deities, and the first verse, the first 8 set of verses, I think 8 or 7 verses that come are specific glorification of the spiritual master, right? Not Krishna. Has anyone wondered why this is? Why is so much emphasis put on the spiritual master in this tradition? I mean, Krishna standing there, we opened up the curtains and we sing Vande Guru Sri Charanara Vrinda. I offer my humble obeisances, my respectful obeisances onto the lotus feet of our spiritual master. Right? A newcomer who comes into ISKCON, this new spiritual seeker, they might be a bit surprised. Why do you worship Guru so much? Why do you put Guru on such a pedestal? Why do he's, in our case, Prabhupada, you can say he's but a man. He's not God. He's not Krishna. So why do you worship him so much? In fact, in 1956, in Back to Godhead, Prabhupada published a essay and an article, and in that he wrote all the prerequisites required to go back home, back to Godhead. And the first point was that one needs the blessings of the spiritual master. One needs to accept the lotus feet of the spiritual master. So this brings us back to the core question that we're going to discuss today. Why do Hare Krishnas or ISKCON movement place such an emphasis on Guru and or place the spiritual master on such a pedestal? So let's unpack this, right? Someone asking this question, they're really thinking to understand God as a whole, right? They're trying to understand they're trying to start on a spiritual path. They're trying to refine their Krishna consciousness or some level of spirituality. And so they want to unravel the mystery of who we are, who God is, and what is our relationship with Him, right? If you think about this, this is a very difficult endeavor, very ardent very arduous and deep endeavor. It requires a lot of effort, right? So let's actually go and let's go a little bit more deeper into this. When you want to try and understand anything in this world, to become a subject matter expert, usually the degree that is conferred to be classified as a subject matter expert on a topic is a PhD. A PhD, on average, takes about 10 to 15 years to get. And after the PhD, the one thing that all PhDs have told me is that after a PhD, we realize how little we actually know. They go into so much detail to realize that there's so much more to still uncover. And the higher you go up, the more specific your knowledge becomes, right? So to get a PhD on one small topic in this one planet, which is part of one universe, takes about 10 to 15 years. Imagine if you were to get a PhD on all topics in the world, just in this world, right? So that would be like 50, it would take a lifetime. Now imagine if you want to get an understanding of another planet, still like Earth. Let's say you want to go get a PhD on the moon or on the moon. How much time that would take, right? And then think about the entire vast universe, how long it would take to become a subject matter expert on all aspects of the universe. Or let's say the galaxy, Milky Way galaxy, then the universe. And then after, if once you have eventually, after I don't know how many years, gotten a PhD in all matters of the universe, that is just one of the unlimited universes that make up the material world. And the material world is only 1/4 of the total creation. So, and God is even greater than that. So, to become a subject matter expert on God, to understand God really, to understand our position and our relationship to Him, it's not even possible, even in hundreds of lifetimes. Okay. And even if you somehow get the evidence and you understand God and you get your PhD, getting a understanding a topic requires brain power. God, by definition, is someone beyond a human capacity to understand. So, how can you understand something that is by definition beyond your understanding? It's not possible, right? So then the question, so I was, when I was preparing this, I was like, so if I have no prerequisites to understand God, how am I going to become Krishna conscious? How am I going to understand my relationship with Him? I can't even understand who I'm building a relationship with, right? However, when we look at the introduction of the Bhagavad Gita, on the last page of the introduction, Prabhupada has listed the disciplic succession. And the first person on that list is Lord Brahma. So why does our disciplic succession, one may ask, start from Lord Brahma? The reason is because you know how I said how long it would take to actually put in the work to understand God? Brahma put in that work. Specifically, he put in 315 trillion earthly years. So one day of Brahma is 4.32 billion earthly years. And then one night is also that much. So you do 4.32 billion times 2. Then you multiply that by 365 to get 1 year. Brahma lives for 100 search years. You multiply that by 100, you get 315 trillion years. So Brahma, it is said that for all of his 100 years of life, he just meditated. He literally just put in the work to understand who God is. And after that, then it is described, as you will see in the later cantos of the Bhagavatam, Krishna or Vishnu gives him his darshan, and then he imparts the 4 shlokas that constitute Chatur Shloki Bhagavatam. And then from there, then Brahma starts to expand and his understanding onto Narad, right? So this is actually, so if we consider what has happened so far, we cannot act in a human limitation, cannot understand Krishna, cannot understand God. But yet this one personality has put in the entirety of his life just to understand Krishna, right? So they have, imagine if someone were to work for 100 years and they gave all that they earned to you, how grateful you would be. Every penny they earned was your benefit. They put in the work, but we get the benefit. That is the beauty of being in this Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. And actually, that is the first reason on why we emphasize the role of Guru in our spiritual journey. To understand Krishna, to understand God, one must put this immense effort. But our acharyas, starting right from Brahma, have already continued to do this work for us so that we can have it easy. Huh? I mean, the guru undergoes a lifetime of austerity, of hardship, just to realize Krishna. And then what do? They freely just impart that understanding onto the disciple, so that the disciple doesn't have to go through those same tribulations as they did. They can start from that point on, right? We can see that Prabhupada actually how much Prabhupada dedicated, how much work Prabhupada has put just so that me and you can have an easier time understanding Krishna. You know, I was reading this, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is on the slide. He spent 8 years researching to get his hands on on a copy of Chaitanya Chaitamrit. He didn't have that. Now I go on my phone. I have Chaitanya Chaitamrit on my phone. Why? Because of all the acharyas, all the devotees, all the saints that have come before us. They've made it so easy for us. So that is why we worship the spiritual masters, because they have literally put in years and years and years of hardship just so that me and you can have it easy. Okay, so that's point number one. Point number two of why Guru actually, we put so much emphasis on Guru, is Guru alleviates our suffering. So if we understand, you know, acharyas have put in all this work, have put in all this knowledge, what's the impact of this knowledge on a day-to-day life of a sadhaka, right? What impact does it have? And the impact that it has, as we know, is that it alleviates suffering. Now, once somebody, I remember when we go out preaching on book distribution or something, we say everyone is suffering, and you'll always meet that one person. It'll be like, and most of the time it's a very egoistical guy. He's like, I'm not suffering, man. I'm like living life. I'm chilling. I'm relaxing. But if you consider, let's just take this for example. Let's just consider this. Every action that we do from the morning, from the time we wake up to the time we go to bed, is to alleviate suffering. Why do we eat? So that we don't have to feel the pains of hunger, right? Why do we like? Why do even I even think, like, I was thinking about this the other day. Even when we practice bhakti, why are we practicing bhakti? We are practicing bhakti because somehow or the other we are convinced that this will bring us happiness. And so, even our motivation sometimes to practice bhakti is to alleviate suffering by getting happy. Huh? So, you see that every motivation, like almost the motivation to every one of our activities, is to alleviate suffering. And now Guru holds the knowledge on how to alleviate that from the root cause. See, the root cause of suffering is, Prabhupada explains, is that we have forgotten who we are and our relationship with Krishna, right? We've forgotten our spiritual nature, and as a result, we have lost our relationship to Krishna, and in a way, forgotten the true essence of our relationship to Krishna. Now, Guru holds the knowledge of Krishna, as we said. Guru holds the knowledge of that relationship. And so when he imparts that knowledge to us, and when we understand and realize that knowledge, then by definition, suffering stops, because now we've understood who God is and our relationship to him. It's just logic. It stops, right? Now you may say, Prabhu, but that's a year, that's a lifetime of work to understand who we are, who God is, and our relationship with him. So this is the long game. But I'm suffering right now. I'm hungry right now. I am going through so much anxiety right now because of so many different factors. So how does Guru alleviate suffering right now? Right? The long game is that eventually the root cause of suffering is addressed, but in the short term, how is Guru alleviate suffering now? And this is actually very interesting. If we understand, if we read the Bhagavatam, if we read the various scriptures, we'll realize that Guru is also imparting knowledge on how to alleviate suffering in the short term. The whole point of suffering, if you think about it, the reason why people often hit their breaking point is not because the amount of suffering that they receive, if you really think about it. It's because they can't make sense of why they're suffering so much. If there's a purpose or an understanding behind why a person is suffering, then they can actually tolerate that suffering for a lot longer. Think about your average gym bro or gym core, right? They go, Prabhu's, I tried, I'm trying to hit the gym 4 days a week, and it is a struggle, right? The amount you have to subject your body to, your diet, even just mentally, you have to like push yourself to go. And there are people going 6 days a week, 7 days a week, putting their body through like another version of hell. But at the end of the day, they actually are like, no, we're driven to do it. Why? Because they understand that our suffering has a purpose. It there's a point to why we are putting ourselves through this. On Thursday, we just fasted until like I think dusk was like 8:59 p.m. Right? There were devotees around the world fasting from like water, fasting from food, any sort of completely nirjal. Why are they subjecting themselves to so much austerity and suffering in one sense? Is because they have a purpose. They understand that, yes, I'm doing this because today is a day of austerity, right? You tell anyone on the street that, hey, I don't, Prabhupada made it easy. He said you just fast from grains on Ekadashi. But before Prabhupada, Ekadashi standard was nirjal. Every Ekadashi, don't drink or eat, right? He made it easy for us. If you go and tell anyone on the street, twice in a month, I just don't eat. I don't drink water. I don't eat. And if you read the pastimes of how Ekadashi was established, the devotees were not even sleeping. You're doing this twice a month. Someone on the street will say you're crazy, man. Like it's okay. But why do devotees like subject themselves to so much suffering and come out at the end of it feeling nourished? Actually, because they understand there's the purpose behind the suffering. And so what Guru does, allows us to contextualize our suffering, and that gives us the understanding behind the purpose of why we're suffering, allowing us to tolerate suffering at least in the short term, right? If we look at, and when a sadhaka, when a devotee really understands this at their core, then they almost get to a point like Kunti Devi did, where she actually prayed for suffering because she understands that the purpose behind my suffering is actually to allow me to remember Krishna more. And so, if my suffering is allowing me to is a catalyst for me to practice my spiritual life, or is a catalyst for me to deepen my spiritual life, then of course I'm going to ask for that again and again and again. Of course, we shouldn't imitate, but I'm just saying that this, by imparting this or by contextualizing suffering, this can be the effect. It can actually not only allow us to tolerate suffering in the short term, but also allow us to almost see suffering as a catalyst to our spiritual growth. Okay? So that's point number two. Point number one is Guru puts in the work for us, makes it easy. Point number two was Guru allows to alleviate suffering in the long term and the short term. Okay. Now, and this is just that. I forgot I had this slide, but this is that, right? Short-term relief and long-term. Now, if someone does this for you, what is the natural predisposition in your heart that comes out? You, gratitude, reverence, respect. But you think that this personality, they've gone through so much trials and tribulations just for my benefit. And not only that, then whatever I'm struggling with right now, they're giving me knowledge by which I stop suffering at the like I stop suffering holistically. Like they just address the root cause of my suffering altogether. Of course, then to such a personality, you'd just be like incredibly grateful, incredibly respectful. You'd give your honor, right? You naturally, yeah, we pay obeisances. And the other thing I would actually say that, even at least I'll speak for myself, when we think about what Srila Prabhupada has done for us, then of course we are like, no, we want to, twice a day is too little. We want to actually worship him again and again and again, just because of what everyone seated in this room is only here because of that one person. We celebrated Nashinga Chaturdasi recently, and I was just appreciating. I was like, I was thanking Lord Nrsingadev that, my dear Lord, thank you so much for appearing, because reading about your pastimes, reading about how you protect your devotees, it provides the heart so much relief. If you hadn't appeared, then imagine your life without having known about the appearance of Nrsingadev. There would be so much that we'd be missing. But that is Nrsingadev. Even if he had appeared, fine. I wouldn't have known if it wasn't for Prabhupada. Everyone in this room is the reason why we have friendships, we have mentors, we have like such a holistic life, is because of Prabhupada, right? I don't think we even understand how much we've been given. We've been given so much we can't actually understand it. If you give a 2-year old $1 million, will they actually be able to understand what $1 million is? If you give a 2-year old $1 billion, they'll be like, yeah, this is a lot of money, but I can't actually understand. Similarly, nurse, I'll at least say this for myself. In my spiritual immaturity, I can't actually understand how much I've been given. Right? That's okay. Water just went down the wrong hole. It's fine. And so naturally, when we go in front of Srila Prabhupada, what will come out of our hearts? Just absolute humility and reverence, and we'll just want to put our head down at his lotus feet. But the gift that the Guru gives does not stop there. The act of offering obeisances to Guru, to Srila Prabhupada, it holds even a deeper significance. So it is said that whenever we bow down, whenever we perform arti, we offer flowers to Prabhupada every day. Whenever we humble ourselves before the spiritual master, we are actually receiving another gift. And that gift is the jewel of humility. Humility, simply put, means not being anxious to be honored by others, which means that I do not do activities, or I do not do activities, or I'm not motivated by getting recognized by others, right? My real, now, I will say this is a very, like, if we really consider what humility is, it's a tall order. I remember early in my spiritual life, anytime there would be a festival, I would make sure I keep nurture. I would be so driven to keep nurture at every festival. And my motivation externally was like, wow, he's so driven. He's so pukka on trying to keep his fast. My real motivation was, if I'm walking around in the temple, someone to ask me, Prabhu, you should have some water. Prabhu, you should eat something. So I can be like, no, no, Prabhu, I'm keeping nurture. But you're not keeping neutral, right? And or sometimes you would act overly humble just to fish for compliments. Oh, Prabhu, I'm the most fallen. I mean, you talk about fallen, Prabhu, you have no idea how fallen I am. Like, right? It's all a show. The whole motivation for doing our activities is driven so that other people can recognize us for what we're doing, right? And now you take this mind, this consciousness, and and Guru sees that how is this person going to develop humility? And the reason why humility is so important is this is the one jewel that attracts Krishna. We know from Shastra that this is the one jewel that really attracts Krishna in our life. So Guru is thinking, how is Krishna gonna come if this person continues to act in this way? Right? And so what Guru does is he understands that, okay, I'm dealing with someone who only wants to be recognized, does not want to give anyone else recognition. So I'm going to appear in their life, show them, hopefully they can recognize the, the wisdom that I'm giving, and how the spiritual gift that I'm giving them. And in this way, hopefully, naturally from their heart, reverence and respect can flow towards me, right? So Guru recognizes that this person has no hope in developing humility, so they make an appearance in our life. When they make an appearance in our life, like Srila Prabhupada did, we naturally recognize what they've done for us, and so naturally our humility flows from our heart. We are like, at least to our spiritual master, at least to Srila Prabhupada, we're going to bow down, we're going to offer respect, we're going to offer reverence. And this actually starts the journey of developing humility, right? Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he famously said, don't try to see Krishna, serve in such a way so that Krishna wants to see you. Right? So offering obeisances to Guru is literally the start of our journey in developing that jewel called humility that will eventually bring Krishna into our life. Right? Now, that's again, this is a very one-sided deal. You may say that, fine, we're offering humility. Someone may say, this is a very nice way you're packaging this. Guru is, we're offering obeisances to Guru, and Guru is actually giving us humility. Oh, this is a very nice way to justify why we should pray to Prabhupada twice a day, why we should offer respects to our spiritual masters, why we should, give them all this on reference. It's a very nice way to package it. But actually, there's something even deeper going on, right? So, when Prabhupada was physically present on this planet, devotees came to him and they said that we want to install your murtis. So the murti that you see upstairs, that was established in ISKCON even when Prabhupada was present. And Prabhupada said, yeah, this is very nice. He said, we'll do arti, we'll do worship. And Prabhupada's like, okay, all right, fine. Some South Indian Brahmins had come to Hyderabad, ISKCON, to just visit the temple. And one of them heard about this concept and he was against it. So he went, I think, from Hyderabad, he went to Mumbai to tell Prabhupada, don't do this. And he presented all the Shastric evidence on why Prabhupada shouldn't do this. And his reason was, Prabhupada, when your disciples, when the devotees in the future see your murti, bow down to you, pay you obeisances, offer arti, worship you, then you will be taking on their sins. And so you will be constantly subjected to suffering, even after you leave this earthly planet. So the Brahmana is against this. This devotee who's come to Prabhupada is against this because it would mean that Prabhupada would constantly be suffering because we are offering obeisances, we are offering arti. And you know what Prabhupada's response was? Prabhupada, he heard all his arguments and he heard all the Shastric evidence, and Prabhupada just said one line: "Don't you get it? This is why I've come. I've only come so that I can accept the sinful reactions of these people so that they have a shot of going back home, back to Godhead. Otherwise, they have no chance." So when we offer obeisances, so we offer reverence and obeisances to Guru. And what does Guru get? Guru gets all the sinful reactions from us. You see how one-sided deal that is, like how one-sided that is. When we say that when someone gives us our blessings or their blessings, when they say that, oh, by offering obeisances, I'm going to get purified, the blessings that you're getting is that they're actually taking your sinful reactions. You're getting purified because they're taking your sinful reactions voluntarily, right? And this way you can see how the disciple, by the act of offering obeisances, because of what the guru has done, out of natural respect and reverence from them, gets to develop humility, or gets started on developing humility, and gets their sinful reactions taken and transferred onto the guru. How merciful can someone be? Would any one of you take a student debt from somebody else? Nobody. If I were to come and tell you, I have 300,000 of student debt, please, Ishan Prabhu, please take some. You'll be like, bro, I have my own. Right? Guru is saying, let alone all your sinful reactions that you've done, you give it to me, I'll take. I was listening to a class, and there was I was listening to a class, and the devotee had said that he had written this letter to Prabhupada, and he was offering it to Prabhupada Murti during Guru Puja, and he was really like crying and really deeply emotional when saying that, Prabhupada, why did you have to suffer so much, when he was reading the Lilamrit. And Prabhupada said that, what do you mean I had to? He appeared in his dream, and Prabhupada in his dream said, what do you mean I had to? I am still suffering now because everyone around the world is coming. Everyone that's coming into an ISKCON temple is offering obeisances, is offering worship. And so Prabhupada is still taking their sinful reactions. He's serving, this is what someone may say, he's serving beyond his grave even. Right? It's incredible. And so this is the third reason, is that the very act of offering obeisances to the Guru allows us to develop humility as well, which then attracts Krishna. And so to summarize, we began this discussion asking the question, why is the spiritual master so revered in the Hare Krishna movement? It's one, because he's put in, it's the fruits of his labor, the lifetime of austerity that they have done, we get to be the benefit, and they give that benefit to us, no strings attached. Right? Second, the Guru alleviates and eradicates our suffering, both in the short and long term. And third, the Guru gives us a very practical and natural method to develop humility by allowing us to worship him, by allowing us to offer obeisances unto him. And he takes their sinful reactions in the process. Okay. If you want to remember all that I've said in this class, It's very easy. If you want to keep this at the forefront of your mind tomorrow, it's very easy. You just have to remember the first verse that we sing in the morning every day. The first verse of the Guru Vastakam has all these 3 points included, right? The first verse of the Guru Vastakam in Sanskrit is Samsara Dava Nalalidha Loka Karuna Ghana Ghanatvam Praptasya Kalyana Gurnarna Vasha Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrinda. The English translation is as follows. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy. Just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it, so the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. I offer my respectful obeisances onto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master who is an ocean of auspicious qualities. The first point was the spiritual master is has done the work, has gotten the knowledge, and he's giving it to us. When the first line, the spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, is the guru has undergone a lifetime of austerity to receive this benediction, the empowerment to distribute Krishna's mercy to the world. And so it's entirely because of their lifetime of dedicated bhakti that you and I know Krishna. So the first line is they're receiving mercy. And so the first point was that Guru has done the work to receive the mercy, and then he's giving it to us. Okay, that's the first line. Second line is just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it, so the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. Has anyone seen a firefly or a moth next to a fire? You have. What does the moth do when it gets next to the fire? It tries to go into the fire, yeah? Yeah. And then it burns and finishes. Right. So the material world is compared to a fire, and we're compared to like a moth. The fire is dangerous to us, it will burn us. And yet we are attracted, just as a moth is attracted by the light, the jiva, the conditioned soul, is attracted to enter the fire. But as soon as it enters the fire, what happens? It starts to burn. And so we are all burning in this material suffering. How can one stop the moth from entering the fire? They can either swat the moth away, which will hurt the moth because you're swatting it away, but the moth will come back because the moth is so determined that, no, I must touch the fire, right? Or you can, I don't know, try to shield the fire in some way, but the moth again will be persistent. I want to get in, I want to get in, I want to get in. Another very ingenious way to prevent the moth from entering the fire is just put out the fire entirely, right? Yeah, this is what the guru is doing. We are the moth. We want to enter, enter, enter. But spiritual master is saying that, no, let me just extinguish the fire altogether. Let me just take away your material suffering altogether so you don't have to get burnt. So that was the second point. Guru takes away material suffering. And the third point is the third line. I offer my respectful obeisances onto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master who is an ocean of auspicious qualities. And so finally, the third point is we are given this opportunity to offer our obeisances to the spiritual master so that we can develop humility, so that we can actually get purified. So just like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, you should understand when our acharyas write these bhajans, it's not just poetry, it's based on really deep realization. And so right from the third, just the first verse of the Gurvastakam, it automatically details all the reasons why the spiritual master should be reverend, should be honored, should be respected. It's just all these three. It's laid out in the first verse of the Gurvastakam altogether. In conclusion, this was the slide there. And this is the conclusion. Satisfaction of the spiritual master, worship of the spiritual master is not a ritual. It's actually based on deep understanding and actually deep realization of what they're offering us. shouldn't actually be a ritual. It should be, it's actually based on reflection, and it's based on understanding of how we got here and why we got here. It's because the spiritual master has given us so much so that we may actually practice bhakti on a very deep level. With that, I'd like to thank you all so much. Any questions, comments, criticisms? Would you like to say anything?
I'd like to share the question and realization.
Please.
So, if you've heard, most of our spiritual masters, when they initiate, they say on behalf of Srila Prabhupada. Um, the Guru always considers himself as a transparent via medium of the flow. So he accepts the simple reactions. And because he's the transparent via medium, he passes it down to his Guru. And his Guru passes it down to his Guru. And all the way to Krishna, where actually Krishna absorbs everything. So the Guru's responsibility is to be a transparent via medium of his Guru's mercy. And the specific succession is what gives us the strength to continue. And I was always curious, that how does one become, like I've heard in so many lectures, you become the servant of the servant of the servant, and you realize Krishna there. I was like, how is that possible? That even if you keep going further away, how is that even going to work? And until I had this real desire of learning photography. And I took some photography courses. I'm there with my camera and all kinds of lenses. And I was just taking a picture of Radha Vrindavan Chandra. And I put in one lens, was still further away. I put in another lens and another lens. And he kept getting closer. And I was thinking, that's it. That's how you get closer to Krishna, is becoming the servant.
Servant of the servant of the servant.
Servant. And as many servants you have in between Krishna and you,
The closer you
get
are. Yeah.
And yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you. That was amazing. I'm gonna steal that analogy.
Sounds so good.
Any other questions, comments? Yes.
We mentioned that even the purpose of our suffering or austerity that we take on really is to think of Krishna more. But sometimes we take up austerity and it becomes mechanical. We do it for the sake of like doing it. But it's not like Krishna is not there. So how can we
change that?
Yes.
Yeah. For me, I'll just give you what I do. I don't know if this is actually based, and I would love to hear what Prabhu has to say, but I don't think this is based, I don't know if it's based on any Shastra, but for me, the day before, I actually write down why I'm doing it. So and again, it applies for me because in order for me to be convinced to do something, at least theoretically or mentally, it needs to make sense to me. So I literally write down why I'm doing it. And this was a huge reason as to why I actually didn't feel inspired to keep Ekadashi or fast until about a couple of years ago. And so I have to really write down, and I write down my meditation of why I'm doing this. Having that on the next morning when I wake up, I read that, and usually then now it's gotten to a point where as long as I've written it down, it stays with me all the way through till the end. Initially, it is going to be mechanical because we are still practicing sadhana bhakti rather than raganuga bhakti, right? Sadhana bhakti is that it's a practice. You have to sort of go through the motions, and then eventually it sort of gets to a point where it's spontaneous. But in the beginning, yeah, it may feel mechanical, but one steps that we can take is really understanding why you're doing it or the purpose behind it, and really make that your focus. It'll be very specific to you, right? For example, for me, one thing that I heard was, when we fast, the reason why you're fasting is really so that you can have that extra time to think about Krishna. And when you do get into a state where you're just like, I really can't do it, you have the opportunity to pray to Krishna for that empowerment. So in a way, like, and I mean, yeah, on Thursday, there were so many times I was just like, Dave, just please help me, right? But even like, eventually it gets to a point where you're really just relying on Nrsingadev, and and you also start to understand, at least for me, one of my realizations on Thursday was you just start to understand, dude, I'm so dependent on, like, my bhakti is so dependent on, like, so simple things like having food in my stomach. Like, what to speak when a big calamity happens in my life? Will I actually be able to chant my rounds then? If I can't even chant my rounds when I'm hungry, you know? So it also helps you, like, it's also a reality check. But then I'm like, but if I can chant my rounds well, even when I'm hungry, then I'm one step closer to being able to chant my rounds when there's other stuff going on in my life. Right. So that's how I do it, is I write down reflections, I reflect, and I repeat that reflection many ways. Non-Krishna conscious perspective is, there's a book by an author called Simon Sinek. It's called Start With Your Why. Right. I've used that principle in this, basically. Anything you would like to add?
The purpose, like you mentioned, the why
Yeah.
is so important. The why is that it's for the pleasure of Krishna. Any kind of austerity. It's not for Krishna. It's not for even becoming purified. And Mahaprabhu said that Madhava Tithi Bhakti Janani. Any Tithi of Madhava is Bhakti Janani. Jatane Palana Puri. Madhava Tithi Bhakti Janani Jatana Palana Puri. Jatana means try to follow as many rules and regulations on this Madhava Tithi. And of course, like Prabhu mentioned, to free up your time. So if you're freeing up your time and you're able to focus on Krishna, then yes, you do the austerity. But if that austerity is taking you away from Krishna, then you might as well eat and remember Krishna. Because the goal, the why is to remember Krishna.
Yeah.
But we have to be in that stretch zone, always. Not that we become too complacent and we become too austere that we break. And
Yeah. Actually, I'm not, I was gonna say something, but
yes.
no. I'll just logging the class. I'll keep looking at the time. Maybe I'll just share it later on. Any other points? I don't want to stand between you and Prasadam. So speaking of austerity, yes.
Yeah, I was just, it's kind of a reflection plus question, because I was just reflecting on who in their sane mind would go ahead to take up so many people's sins, right? And so many spiritual masters in the society are doing that, So I just wanted to understand the mindset behind this in terms of, like, what inspires individuals to become a guru.
I wouldn't know because I'm not one. But I think from what I've read, it really comes out of, there are a couple of things. One is that it comes out of this desire to please their guru, right? Like Prabhupada, if you read, he wasn't, if you listen to him, he never said that, oh, I'm accepting disciples because I want to, right? He always said, this is a service to my spiritual master. And right, so this almost becomes like, have you heard the story of Krishna's headache? So Krishna had a headache. He was like, I need the dust from the lotus feet of my devotees. And nobody would give. Narad Muni went except the gopis. And then Narad Muni asked, you're gonna get sent because of this. And they're like, even if we get sent, as long as Krishna is happy, we're good, right? And so I feel like sometimes, or at least based on what I've read, it's really, oh, sorry, I should say listen to this. It's really a function. It's almost a service to a spirit. If serving and pleasing my spiritual master means I have to suffer, so be it. Prabhupada makes, I was reading Bhagavatam, Prabhupada says that in Krishna consciousness, there's the concept, and in other spiritual paths, there's a concept called self-abnegation. And yeah, self-abnegation. So self-abnegation is really like rejection of any personal comforts for a higher purpose, which means like even if that means accepting suffering so that others may benefit for for the pleasure of your spiritual master. That's one. And then wait, there was another one that I was going to say. Um, and then the other point is what Prabhupada mentions in Bhagavad Gita chapter 1. He mentions it at a few places. He says that when a pure devotee has naturally a lot of compassion for the living entities, like Arjuna had. And so one of the ways that compassion comes about is that if they are all like Prabhupada said when he arrived at Boston Pier, that they're all suffering. He saw how much suffering there were. So as a way to alleviate that suffering, if a pure devotee thinks that if I have to take some of theirs, if I have to take their suffering so that they can be happy or they don't suffer, fine. But that's again born out of compassion, right? So those are the two, at least based on what I have read, that I would say. But again, if there's anything else to add.
I think we shouldn't give them on the other side. But you very appropriately said. And of course, in addition, a guru is always the transparent via media. And when we say the guru accepts the simple reaction of a sincere disciple, sincere is the conditions applied, you know. Doesn't mean that after you take your vows, you can continue to perform sin and then you will simple reaction. No. To the point, he gives you a clean slate to work with. And your responsibility is the guru is a guru till the time you are his disciple. And that's one crucial aspect. And the aspect that the guru also continues to remain a disciple of his. There's so much emphasis on the Guru Parampara because all the time you have to understand that we are only a violin here, which, of course, the Ritvik took it totally out of context and made, when Prabhupada said we are only a Ritvik, we're a via medium of our Guru, who and then directly connects to Krishna. And Krishna can absorb any amount of sin, nothing affects him. So, yes, and definitely the mood of compassion has to be there. Vasudev that also express this desire. Let me take the simple reaction of all living entities so that they have a clean slate to now make the choice to progress in spiritual life. So the reverence for Guru is the foundation of our Krishna consciousness, with the understanding that we remain sincere disciples. Always see the little conditions in life. Yes. Yes. No.
I think that's it.